Hey, what's going on, y'all? So I wanted to talk a little bit about an article I came across, I want to say yesterday. And the article was talking about dairy, and it was talking about how it is possibly, it was questioning whether or not dairy is harder to digest as you get older. And so dairy is a big kind of conversation in our country because, when I was growing up, it used to be really encouraged to drink several glasses of milk a day, to see it as a vital and very valuable part of the standard diet. Now, that has changed in recent years, and thankfully so, because dairy is not really, it's not that, black and white of a food substance in the sense of, it's not like one of those things that you necessarily need to be consuming. It's not vital for life, it's not vital for growth, or anything for that matter. But I got a few points from this article. I'm going to link to the article in the description. Anyway, here's some things I saw in that article I want you to listen to. So it says pros. This was from a dietitian who was referenced in the article, or quoted in the article rather. She said pros for consuming dairy, particularly milk, include its nutrient-rich profile, providing calcium, vitamin D, protein, potassium, and other essential nutrients. Um, Now, it is true that milk has a lot of nutrients and whatnot, essential nutrients at that. But I kind of want to like spell this stuff out a little bit. First of all, it's important for us to keep in mind like what milk is, the purpose of milk. So milk is something that mammals produce. You know, we're considered mammals as well, but all mammals, or at least most of them, produce milk specifically for their young, the newborns who come into the world and are not yet able to digest solid food. And so milk is like a special food drink specifically for newborns. Okay. And so like literally after you get past weaning age, then you start to lose the ability to digest milk because you you stop produce you start to produce less and less of an enzyme called lactase. Lactase is an enzyme that helps you to digest lactose, which is milk sugar. So if you hear people talking about being lactose intolerant, that means that they're not able to digest milk sugar. Now, like I was saying, milk is indeed like nutrient rich, but you have to understand why. It's because it's for newborns. Um, but they're able to digest the milk a lot better. And I'm going to go a little bit further into that too. Um, Another thing the article said was it's from I think the same dietitian. A well planned, balanced diet that includes these nutrients in sufficient quantities can provide all the essential nutrients necessary for good health without the need for dairy milk. So I'm glad it said that because again, when I was growing up, milk was highly publicized, and once I got to like middle school or so, they started doing those ads where they had all these celebrities with the milk mustache and all that kind of stuff, making it like it was cool to drink milk and whatnot. But milk is not necessary, particularly after you get, you know, past baby stage, weaning stage. And in particular, even cow milk. I've heard that cow milk can be even problematic for children, but that's a whole different story. Um, Now, so let me go back a bit. So I wanted to point that out too because I'm glad they said that you can get all those different kind of nutrients from a balanced diet that includes in particular a lot of leafy greens and stuff. A lot of times we're told to drink milk because of the calcium, but other parts of what I've learned have suggested that the we drink milk for the calcium. However, milk can also have like an acidifying effect where it actually tends to not be as good for your bones as people thought. It tends to leach nutrients from your bones when you think that it's adding nutrients to your bones. So do your research on that. But it appears that it's better to get calcium and all that from like eating your vegetables, in particular leafy greens, and whatnot. So yeah. Now, again, like I said, milk, whether you're a human or a cow or a dog or whatever. Milk is primarily for like newborn babies and people who are not yet weaned. Um, but it is also worth noting that some parts of the world's population are better able to digest, milk or dairy products than others. So if you are of African descent like me, then there's a real good chance that you are not as able to digest lactose, to digest dairy products, because about 70 plus percent of people of African descent are lactose intolerant. Now, even higher percentage of people of Asian descent, like 90 plus percent of people who are of Asian descent, are lactose intolerant. However, from my research, it appears that people of Northern European descent are able to digest lactose on average. And again, it's because somewhere way, way back in the day, they adapted to being able to digest dairy. Whereas most of the world's population is lactose intolerant. So that's something to keep in mind as well, that most of us just are not, um, if you're not of Northern European descent, you're probably not really able to digest lactose as much as you think that you are. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Now, the other thing is, think about what milk is. And I'm gonna explain my own approach to milk in a second. But think about what milk is. It's primarily food for babies who can't eat solid food yet. But it helps them to grow and to develop, before they are able to consume solid food. So it gives them everything they need up until that point. So it not only has, calories and stuff like that, it has, proteins and whatnot. It's helping to develop the digestive system. It's helping to develop the immune system because it has various bacteria and stuff in it, are things that help to develop the microbiome and whatnot. It also has hormones in it, growth factors and things like that are helping the baby grow. Now, I believe that's part of the reason why you see milk or high consumption of milk often implicated in hormonal issues in adult humans. So, for example, when I was a teenager, I remember hearing that um, milk, was kind of like contributing to acne. And think about that. So like, you get all these bumps and stuff on your face. Now, we get acne a lot whenever we're in that stage of our life where we're changing a lot and our hormones are raging and all that kind of stuff. And so that's symptomatic of it. So it wouldn't be any surprise that milk also contributes to that, or like dairy, I'll say. Um, the other thing is, like, even other issues are associated with dairy consumption because of like the different kind of growth factors and hormones. And I'm not even necessarily just talking about like hormones as it pertains to like what people give cows and stuff. I'm talking about just the fact that milk is what it is. But prostate issues, for men, and then reproductive issues in women like PCOS, that's polycystic ovarian syndrome, um, and other issues linked to excessive consumption of dairy. Now, keep in mind, we live in a society where our children are given milk to drink with their meals. And I talked about this in a previous video. When I really thought about that, it's kind of weird. Like, how come they can't just drink water or something? But like, they're giving milk with their spaghetti or milk with their chicken tenders or whatever. And that's in part because milk is it's a subsidized um food in our society, meaning that the government funds those who kind of help to produce it. So it's an abundance of it. And so it's given to our kids. Um, but anyway, just saying that to say, it appears that the high consumption of dairy, we've been taught to think that it's necessary, but it's not. And it's important to understand that most people can't really digest dairy around the world. When you look at the whole world, most people technically aren't able to digest dairy because we kind of start to lose that ability as after we're weaned, unless you have Northern European descent. Now, I do want to note as well, though, that if you consume fermented dairy, like cultured dairy, which includes yogurt, it includes sour cream, it includes even cheese. Fermented dairy tends to be easier to digest because apparently the process of culturing, the process of fermentation kind of helps to break down some of those hard to digest sugars and whatnot. So that's something to note that, you know, perhaps those are ways to kind of consume dairy that might be easier. Now, I don't know what that addresses as far as like the hormonal kind of related stuff, but that's something to keep in mind that fermented dairy is probably easier to digest for those who are traditionally lactose intolerant. Anyhow, that said, what is my approach to dairy? So for the most part, like I haven't bought milk, like a gallon of milk, like for just drinking milk in ages. Now I have bought like half gallon here and there, like if we're using milk in like an occasional like a recipe or something like that. Or I do like to drink like half and half or evaporated milk, like maybe a little on the weekends for my coffee. But like right now I have like a non-dairy coconut milk, almond milk based creamer with no sweetener, by the way, no sweetener. But I use that through the week, but then I might use a little dairy on the weekends because I mean it tastes good in the coffee, but I try to like limit it to that. I don't eat a lot of cheese. I have, here and there, but I've like in the past few months lessened that a lot. And I do a little sour cream and stuff like that. Um, but I try not to just like really base anything that I'm eating or consuming on dairy because of the fact that dairy is not really one of those kind of foods that you really need and that it also can be pretty problematic. I know people who just totally avoid it, and I don't know, maybe one day I will do that. I don't know. Right now I just try to keep it to a bare minimum. And especially if you're somebody who kind of like deals with issues like with your skin or issues with just other hormonal related stuff, it might be a good idea for you to see what happens, or even digestive issues might be a good idea for you to see what happens if you eliminate dairy or severely eliminate it to see how your body changes. Might be a good idea. It could be an issue. So anyhow, I just kind of want to put that out there just to say, we have been taught to look at dairy as like a necessary food, especially for the calcium, but it doesn't necessarily work that way. And most of us around the country, I mean, around the world, when you look at the world as a whole, are not really as able to digest milk and dairy. So, if you do, it seems to me, I'm not giving you official advice, but it seems to me like consuming it in small amounts, if any, is the way to go. And if and with your consumption, it seems like if you can get the cultured varieties, that's best, but still not really doing a whole lot. So for what that's worth, I'm not telling you this is what you need to do. I'm just telling you like kind of like how I approach it in my opinion on how to view it. But make your own decisions. But just know though that milk is not a necessary food source for anybody. Okay. So hopefully that helps.